back! That's right, the toys are back in town. Buzz, Woody, the whole gang's here. Toy Story 4, let's talk about it. This review, for the most part, is going to stay pretty spoiler-free, so if you have not seen the movie yet, feel free to stick around. Unless you don't want to hear reviews, then I totally understand. Watch this later. I'll pretty much just be discussing the basic plot from what you've already seen in the trailer. I'll be talking very little about specific character arcs, but more so the screen time each character gets, what worked for this movie, what didn't work in my opinion. Let's just dive into it. So the biggest question that this movie brings up is, did we need a fourth Toy Story movie? Now, I've been on record for saying this multiple times, but the first three Toy Story movies, in my opinion, is the perfect trilogy. The only other set of movies that I think people can kind of universally agree upon is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I'm obviously talking about The Hobbit, not the original terrible early 2001. But Toy Story is a movie where every single one of them has been universally praised. And for multiple reasons, these movies are incredible. Not only did it lead the way for this new form of animation that we pretty much only see now in animated films, but it was one of the first movies to really take not only voice actors but also very famous celebrities at the time and place them into a children's movie. A formula that we continue to see, and you cannot have an animated movie unless you have an A-list star as the main voice. But you take all of those elements aside, and what do you have? You have three very perfect stories as well. Stories that work as a toy level, as a kid level, as you're a child watching this and being entertained by it, but also as an adult. The themes throughout these movies are ones that pretty much everyone can relate to in some way. And Toy Story 3 ended in such a perfect way. It concluded so many stories for characters, and it would have been the perfect ending. So was it worth it to bring another movie to this franchise? And that is a question that I have still yet to answer. But let me just say it like this. It's all about the perspective of where you're placing this movie. Because this movie is really great. Now, it's unfair to compare it to all the masterpieces that Pixar has already had, but let's just look at animated films in general. This is a top-tier movie. But when placing it in the idea of Pixar, or more specifically the Toy Story franchise, I would have to say it's probably my least favorite of the four. And again, that's hard to compare because those movies are perfect in my mind. So, it's a great movie? Yes. Is it better than any of the other Toy Stories? No. Is that okay? That's up to you. Because the question that has been surrounding this movie is, do we need another Toy Story? Does this deserve to be made? And I think it's not only Toy Story, but a lot of Disney films in general have been struggling with this question. This summer alone, we have the remake of Aladdin, we have the remake of The Lion King, and they're just going to keep coming. Hollywood is all about franchises, it's all about remakes, it's all about just building off that nostalgic feeling you get when you see the trailer and hoping that it translates into ticket sales. And most of the time, it does. We're seeing less and less original content and just seeing more remakes and sequels. But the movies can still be good despite them being those things. Great example, I loved Aladdin. I know it was a remake. It was almost a shot-for-shot remake, and the scenes that they did add and the characters they did add didn't make it like any better than the animated version, but I still liked it. And that's how I feel about Toy Story 4. It is a great animated movie. Probably one of the best animated movies in the past 5 years. I know people are torn on the idea of, okay, this movie did not need to be made. We already have a perfect Toy Story franchise, and other people are just wanting to judge the movie by its own standards. And yes, both of those points can be valid. Sometimes you can be upset because this is the worst movie in that franchise, but you can also really enjoy yourself while watching that movie. Enough about the whole context of this franchise. Let's just jump into this movie. This might be a bold claim, and I'm only making this because I did recently watch the other three Toy Stories, but I think this one might be the funniest. And a lot of the humor comes from most of the new characters. Key and Peele do a fantastic job as their roles. Keanu Reeves once again delivers a great performance, but it's kind of odd because this doesn't always feel like a Toy Story movie. The main character is by far Woody. Buzz almost takes a back seat, and it's almost a spin-off with new characters because we don't even spend a lot of time with the old toys. And I know that's for a lot of reason. I feel like they're, in a way, trying to introduce a new cast of celebrities because when you look at the original cast of the first Toy Story movie, this was an A-list cast. And I know part of the reason is, for example, Don Rickles passed away, and so they want to respect him and not revoice Mr. Potato Head, so therefore Mr. Potato Head doesn't have any other lines other than what Don Rickles already recorded for the other 3 movies. Not only him, Rex, Slinky, Mrs. Potato Head, they all don't have a lot of dialogue or even a lot to do in this movie. Which makes sense because, again, the audience that's going to be watching this movie is much less familiar with who Don Rickles is compared to when they probably first saw it in the 90s. So therefore, bring in Key and Peele, bring in Keanu Reeves, bring in these people who everyone pretty much knows at this point as far as Hollywood goes, and have that be a draw to bring you to this movie. Because essentially this is a Woody movie. Woody is the star of this movie, along with all these other side characters, and then the older toys are just kind of there to pop in and out when needed. This movie does go places emotionally. It really pulls on those emotional strings for a lot of scenes, and the themes are evident, but I think they're just a little muddied down compared to the other 3 movies. I will say though, something that is very good about this movie is the animation. It looks incredible. They pull off new tricks that we have never seen before in computer animation. Not only that, but the world that it takes in and the new characters that are introduced, they look great. They're really funny, and they really explore more of this world and teach us new things about what it's like to be a toy. So yes, this movie is great. It's funny. It's a good time. You will laugh. You will cry at certain parts. It's worth the summer watch. However, not the best Toy Story movie. I think we're all just going to have to be okay with that. So that's Toy Story 4. Have you seen it? What did you think? Comment below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more content like this, and I will always see you next time.